Thanks for watching Endgame Economics. If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe. It's completely free for you, and it helps us continue making more videos like this.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to climb the 7 rungs of global wealth and completely dismantle the statistical illusions hiding inside those traditional GDP rankings. You know, when you look up the richest countries in the world, you usually get this clean, super confident list. But honestly, that list is wearing a costume. So today, we are stripping away the disguise. We're going to find out exactly what it actually takes to truly be a wealthy nation.
Okay, let's dive right into this with a really simple thought experiment. Picture this: a billionaire, let's say Jeff Bezos, walks into a room full of broke college students. Suddenly, the average wealth in that room skyrockets to billions of dollars. But here's the catch, right? Nobody inside that bar can suddenly afford to buy a house. And that is the great flaw of GDP per capita. It's just an average, and averages get completely wrecked by extremes.
So, how do you even get on this leaderboard to begin with? Well, we have to start at level 1. Think of the Rich Club as this incredibly exclusive nightclub, and the World Bank is the bouncer guarding the door with some hard math. Instead of just looking at GDP, they look at gross national income per capita, which is basically all the money a country's residents actually make. They use a threshold calculated through something called the Atlas method. This averages out exchange rates and inflation over 3 years just to smooth out all the economic noise. If a country hits exactly $13,935, they officially scrape past the velvet rope. But listen, sneaking past the bouncer definitely does not guarantee a luxurious lifestyle. At this first level, you're what we'd call technically rich. A country like Russia might scrape past this line, but the mechanics of how they actually got there, it's a perfect cautionary tale. Their recent jump was heavily driven by a war economy. Literally, factories running triple shifts just to pump out military equipment. The thing is, inflating your GDP with tank production doesn't put food on a citizen's table, and it certainly doesn't build lasting household wealth. The headline number says you're rich, but the lived reality for regular people is incredibly thin.
And that brings us to level 2, the escape artists. You know, it's notoriously easy for a developing country to build some factories and pump out cheap goods, but eventually you hit a wall. It's called the infamous middle income trap. Your labor isn't cheap anymore, but your tech can't quite compete with the top-tier nations. You just get stuck. To put that into perspective, out of 101 middle-income countries back in 1960, only 13 had clawed their way to high-income status by 2023. And South Korea? They are absolutely the crown jewel of that tiny group. South Korea is just the ultimate example of this climb. I mean, they rose from less than sub-Saharan African levels in 1960, we're talking around $1,200 per person, to an extraordinary $37,500 today. And they didn't just get lucky. This was a highly deliberate, totally focused national transformation. They graduated from making cheap goods to building the exact semiconductors and devices you're literally using every single day. They fought their way into the club.
Now, as we hit level 3, the establishment, we find a really surprising twist. Industrial heavyweights, nations like Germany and France, actually lose the per capita race to tiny tax havens and oil states. It's wild, right? When you think of wealthy nations, your brain immediately goes to these massive diversified economies that build our cars and our aircraft. Yet Germany sits somewhere around 18th in the world by GDP per capita, and France is near 26th. On paper, they somehow look poorer than nations a fraction of their size.
Which brings us to level 4. And honestly, this is perhaps the single most revealing statistic we are going to look at today. The United States produces a massive average adult wealth of about $696,000, which ranks second globally. But when you switch from average to median, meaning you look at the person standing exactly in the middle of the economy, there's a 10-fold mathematical drop. The median American holds just $69,000. That plummets the country all the way down to 28th place. It is a breathtaking concentration of wealth at the very top, dragging the average into the stratosphere while the typical citizen stays firmly planted on the ground. Now, contrast that U.S. paradox with Australia. Because of near-universal homeownership and a mandatory superannuation system that actually forces retirement savings, they've hit what I call the sweet spot. Australia's per capita GDP is solid, sure, but its median wealth rockets up to over $247,000 per adult. They have managed to create genuine, broadly held prosperity, where the typical person standing exactly in the middle is practically a quarter millionaire. Finally, the average and the reality actually shake hands. Moving up, we climb to level 5, the rentiers. Here, a nation's entire fate depends on one huge decision. Do they treat underground oil as an intoxicating curse or a tightly controlled cure?
The resource curse is a super common economic pattern where striking easy money underground basically corrodes everything else above ground. It inflates the currency, it ruins other industries. Venezuela is the tragic neon-lit warning of this exact collapse. But then you have Norway. Norway famously chose the cure. When they found oil, they made a really radical choice. Whatever you do, don't spend the windfall. Instead, they funneled it all into a sovereign wealth fund that has now swelled to over $2.2 trillion. By legally restricting their government spending to just the roughly 3% expected returns on that fund, they created a system that makes every single citizen a theoretical quarter millionaire. That's about $300,000 held in global investments for everyone. They literally turned a finite hole in the ground into an infinite money machine. Meanwhile, you have Guyana, which currently sits at an incredibly exciting but totally terrifying fork in the road. Thanks to some massive offshore oil discoveries, they are experiencing explosive real GDP growth averaging 47% per year since 2022. I mean, that is a number so large it honestly looks like a typo. But they are living this test right now in real time. Will their institutional discipline hold up so they become the next Oslo, or will they fall right into the trap and become the next Caracas? Okay, as we near the top of the leaderboard, we hit level 6, the Mirages. This tier is completely defined by an accounting trick so totally absurd that economist Paul Krugman literally named it leprechaun economics. Seriously, here the wealth isn't built in a factory and it's not pumped from the ground. It is literally conjured out of a spreadsheet. These countries dominate the very top of your search engine results, but their numbers are measuring something that doesn't actually belong to them. Take Ireland, for example. Back in 2015, Ireland's GDP jumped by a physically impossible 34.4% in a single year. There was no baby boom, there was no massive new factory built. Instead, massive multinationals, led by companies like Apple, simply relocated their intellectual property and their patents to Ireland for tax purposes. That's it. The country's GDP skyrocketed overnight by billions, all without creating any actual corresponding jobs for its citizens. It is nothing more than a statistical ghost. And then Luxembourg uses a completely different spreadsheet illusion. They appear astronomically wealthy on paper, sitting near the very top of all the per capita lists, simply because of a commuter trick. Nearly half of their productive workforce drives in from France, Belgium, and Germany every single morning, produces a full day's economic output, and then just drives home at night. So Luxembourg's GDP takes all that massive output and divides it by an artificially tiny resident population. The math produces this spectacular figure that vastly overstates the local reality. Finally, we reach level 7, the true summit. Switzerland is where the astronomical numbers actually tell the truth. They boast a jaw-dropping average wealth of $910,000 per adult. But unlike the United States, when you apply the median stress test to Switzerland, the number doesn't collapse. The median citizen is legitimately thriving. It's this incredible institutional safe deposit box built on pharmaceuticals, precision machinery, and centuries of stability. Here, the massive wealth isn't an accounting trick, and the prosperity is broadly held by the people. So, the next time a headline throws a richest country ranking at you, you can strip away all these illusions by just running the numbers through 3 really simple filters. First, ask yourself, is this an average or a median? Second, where does the wealth actually come from? Is it built in a factory? Is it pumped from a barrel? Or was it just typed into a spreadsheet? And third, does the money actually stay with the citizens and their homes and pensions? Or does it really belong to a multinational's tax department? To wrap up this explainer, I really want you to look past those flattering averages and ask yourself the hard questions about your own country's true economic trajectory. Across a lot of rich nations right now, housing costs are locking out the young, and wealth is concentrating heavily at the very top. Broadly shared wealth? That is a policy achievement. It is a deliberate choice, not a guarantee, and it is something that has to be re-earned every single generation. So take a hard look at the reality of the person standing right in the middle. What level is your country on today? And if you stay on this exact path, where are you going to be in 10 years?